Alright, CNT120, we're working on Chapter 3. We're now to the section on our transport layer addressing, or our port number. Okay, port number is a number used to identify transport layer to find a particular application running on a computer, probably up at the application layer. So it's used to identify an application that might be running on a computer on a server among multiple applications. Well, okay. Think of your desktop computer. Your desktop computer as you're using it, or your laptop if it's plugged into the network. You typically have multiple things running at one time. You might have a web page open. You might have a web page to a secure connection open. You might have your email running. You might have a video stream running. You might have an audio stream running. All of that stuff is coming into your computer, and your computer needs to know this chunk of data, what application does this go to? Does this go to my email? Does this go to my video stream? Does this go to my data, my music stream? Where does this go? Well, the simple answer is all those chunks of data coming in are labeled with a TCP port number to know what application do I go to. Oh, this goes to your email client. Oh, this goes to your browser. Oh, this goes to your iTunes because you're streaming music. Okay, that's what the port number is there for. What application, this chunk of data, what application is it going to? That's the simple explanation. As I keep going, I typically pair that with an IP, so I create a socket. A socket is really an IP with its associated port number. So if I'm running a telnet session, telnet number is port number 23. And I'm connecting to this particular IP, 1043.387, the socket address is really that IP plus that port number, :23. And that is the socket. And I think they even showed you in the book this idea of this client is connecting to this server using telnet. The server's responding back with information. Well, the definition of that connection would be the IP of this server plus port 23. The IP address :23. That'd be the socket address for that communication. Well, port numbers are actually organized and divided by IANA into a couple ranges. There's well-known ports in the first 1,000 port numbers. After that, there's a chunk of registered, and then the last chunk is a bunch of dynamic. Any system can use dynamically and then get rid of, borrow for a little bit, and then get rid of, borrow and get rid of for a little bit. All of these are organized like so into basically groups. And if I go look them up, there in your book is a chart of common ones. You are going to want to recognize these. Yes, I know. Okay, I don't have any sneaky ways to recognize them. You're going to want to recognize some of these because it matters as you start dealing with networks more what port numbers things are, because that comes into play when you start writing firewall rules or rules on routers to permit and deny traffic, or connecting to things. I need to start recognizing these particular ports. So that the book has a table of a bunch of well-known here, a bunch of well-known here. You're going to want to start to recognize those. Well, there's actually a bigger list. If I go to Wikipedia and look up TCP port number, I get this. Here's my Wikipedia page for TCP and UDP port numbers. It even show you well-known, registered, dynamic. As I start scrolling through, here's some well-known ports. Well, here's 23, telnet. Here's 22 right above it, SSH. Keep going down here. Next to port 80, I'm going to find HTTP. Okay. If I keep going down here, here's 110 should be POP3 for email. Keep going. I'll jump down here to 443. This is HTTPS. HTTPS. There it is. Okay. You're going to want to recognize those. Well, let me keep going, or let me do a Control F. There's got to be a port number associated with Call of Duty. I pick on that one because that's always a kind of a common or fun game a lot of people play. That is associated with port number 28960. So that particular traffic coming through my network would need to go to 28960 on my device for it to be recognized and put into the proper application running on my device. All particular applications have an associated port number. As you look through here, you're starting to see things like Dropbox. I'm starting to see things like certain games scroll by. There was Minecraft down there earlier and so forth. Okay. All my common applications have an associated port number with them. Well, let's look just a little deeper. I'm going to look at some port numbers in Wireshark. Okay. So if I load up Wireshark. Wireshark is my protocol analyzer. Maybe you remember this one from before. This is actually it's called a protocol analyzer. This is going to copy any data moving across my network and put it in this program for me so I can see and look at. So, little Mr. Brown disclaimer here. This is a very powerful program. Feel free to download and install on your computer at home and use on your network at home. But don't download this and install this on a computer at your work, or don't take this on your laptop, from home. Take your laptop from home with this on into work and try to run this. It's going to look like you're trying to compromise something in the network. It doesn't look good. Okay, so keep this for your own computer and your own network kind of thing. But this is a protocol analyzer. It's going to grab data packets off the network so I can examine them or look at them. So I'm going to start this. Okay, I'm going to start this running, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up www.imsa.com. I'm going to go to a racing website that I like to visit. There we go. That's been loaded. I'm now going to go back to Wireshark, and I'm going to stop my Wireshark capture. So I'm going to scroll up here to the top. I already captured, 11,000 packets there. Woohoo! A lot of stuff. But what I want to look for is I want to look for a couple port numbers. I'm going to start off by looking for DNS. So I'm just going to do a simple DNS here and filter all the other packets out, so I'm only looking at DNS. And then I'm going to look for, in here, my imsa.com website that I requested. So I'm going to scroll down through here, and I'm going to look for, hopefully I'm looking over here at imsa.com. Hopefully I can find that. Sometimes it gets buried a little bit. So I'm going to scroll down through. I'm scrolling. I see a bunch of things running in here. That's a lot of traffic on a short amount of time, isn't it? So I'm going to scroll down through. I'm looking. It's got to be in there somewhere. Here we go. Here's an imsa.com. There's at least one query to imsa.com. Let's see if there's another one down here. Oh, that'll work for us. There's one of my queries to imsa.com. So I'm going to look at that, and I'm actually going to just filter out real quick. I'm going to do a follow UDP stream. Okay. So I'm only looking at the query to the DNS server and the DNS server responding back. If I look at this, here are the two packets, the query and the response. If I look at the query, I'm going to slide up the middle window here and open my header. Here's the DNS query. I said, hey, Mr. DNS server dude, can I get the IP address for imsa.com? And it should have responded if I click on the other one of like, hey, here's the answer. Here's the IP address you're looking for. Blah, 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 blah. There it is. Okay. There's the address you're looking for right there. 2365, blah, 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 blah. Well, all that occurred using, in this case, DNS and UDP. UDP is quicker than TCP, if you remember. And it used a specific port number. So I'm going to close my DNS header. I'm going to go back to my query up here, and I'm going to open the UDP header and look at the source port. Well, that 55,000 is the dynamic port coming from my browser. If I look a little closer, the destination port is going to 53, which is, I'll pop back over here. Let me go way up here to 53. If I look at 53, here's 53 right here. That is the port number for DNS. So that is that's saying, okay, server at this IP, 172.16.427, hopefully you're running DNS. If you are, I have a question for you. And that's what this is. This port number says, hey, I have a question for DNS running on this server. Would you please respond? And sure enough, it did. Here's the response coming back to me, server back to me, and in here, source port comes from 53 back to me, 55.798, by my dynamic port for my browser, and it says, hey, here's the answer you were looking for. Here's the address of the thing you're looking for. And then I go on to start communicating with that device. That's what my port numbers are doing for me, identifying a application running on a certain entity. In this case, it was DNS running on a server saying, hey, DNS, would you respond to me? I need the IP address for this website. Would you please look that up and respond to me? And sure enough, it did, because I talked to the correct port number. That's the idea behind port numbers. And if I scroll back to the beginning here, also reminding you, if you have a client, how it sorts all of the data coming into my computer, how it sorts them out and gets them to, well, this goes to my browser, this goes to my email, this goes to my. That's how it sorts it out using these port numbers. So there's my port numbers on my transport layer of my addressing, if you will, my port number addressing at my transport layer. I'll come back in the next podcast and talk about these protocols real quickly.